All right, I'm going to call the meeting of the City Council, Essex Junction City Council to order for Wednesday, April 29th. Any agenda additions or changes?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, nice. It'll be a long meeting, apparently. All right, next is the public to be heard portion. If there's anybody in the room that would like to speak, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Anyone online, please raise your hand online. And Risa?
Thank you, Amber. Last week, there was a Facebook post that got a whole lot of attention about the community gardens and what the costs are and all the rest of it. And I started looking into the community gardens, and then there was another post discussing, planting onions and all these truly great and wonderful things. And as I was looking through, I tried to find the application. I also looked through Monday's Rec Advisory Committee, paid attention to that meeting. And as I was looking through trying to find the application, and it's probably not up because the application time passed long ago. One of the things I kept thinking of is we now have this 1% for donations and charitable uses. How wonderful it would be if there could be a couple of garden plots that could tap into that funding. When I was growing up, we probably would have been able to get together the $40 for the annual, for this year anyway, the annual fee, but the supplies and the equipment and getting seeds and getting plants and all the rest of it, we would have known that we couldn't afford to do that. And I thought, this is a community garden, and it's wonderful that this is available to people, and there are options for, planting onions that can go to Aunt Dot's and stuff. But if there's some way to be able to fund this for a couple of families who would need help with it, that just further expands the whole idea of community. So I don't know how it would happen. I don't know, I realize this is the first year that we as a city have that fund available to us, but it would be great if it could really truly come down to that level in some way. Thank you.
I do know that they have scholarships at EJRP, so there was always that option too. If somebody wanted a garden plot, I think they could probably apply for one of those scholarships that predates the social services budget that we just.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that they had scholarships. That's great. Thank you.
What they, I mean, don't quote me. I'm probably speaking outside of school here, but I know that they're available. I just don't know what they're available for. So I can't imagine that they would not be available for all of the programs that EGRP offers, but
Yeah,
it's worth asking. I mean, we can certainly.
Yep, I can
look
follow
into
up.
it.
I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Can I ask a related question to that? Just, if nothing else, to help the community understand because that's now passed, what is the timing that it would actually look like that would actually be put into place or money could be shared? Because we have to get the money in order for it to go out. So what do you, I know that we haven't put that program together yet, but realistically,
Yeah.
I'm not thinking that we're going to be doing this July 1.
Yeah, the funding will be coming in July. Well, it's FY27 money that needs to be built up first in FY27, not FY26. When exactly we can get it up and running in FY27, I'm not sure yet.
But just so the community has a realistic expectation that
Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to work on it, but not, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, good.
Cora. Can you hear us?
Sorry, did you say my name? Oh, okay. I had more of a question than anything else. I was interested in the bike lanes on Park Street, but I have another commitment tonight. I didn't know if there was a way to talk about that first in the agenda, so I could just kind of hear what's going on with that, or if that's not a thing.
Move the agenda. We have other folks that are present here for other discussions, but you can certainly share your thoughts right now on that if you would like to.
Yeah, I mean, I filled out the survey before, just kind of supporting the idea of having bike lanes there because I mean, I don't bike a lot, but I do occasionally, and whenever I do, that's my least favorite road to bike on, and it's directly outside of my apartment. So it's always, I'm always kind of confused as to where I'm supposed to be in the traffic, and I always kind of feel like there's a truck behind me. But yeah, I don't think I really have anything else to say. I was just curious, how it was going to be moving forward, but I will read the meeting minutes.
We also
Thank
have
you.
the recording will be online, and Town Meeting TV is here as well. So you can grab it from us or grab it from Town Meeting TV.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts. Okay, anybody else? Not seeing any other hands. So we will move on to the public hearing for the large user water rate setting. And I will open the public hearing, and Jess is with us.
Good evening. I'm going to share. Let's see. This. All right. Are you guys seeing the slides? Okay, cool. All right, so we are here tonight to just run through the public hearing for the fiscal year 27 large volume water user rate setting. The large volume water user rate is a rate that is charged for water usage to large users within the city. Right now, Global Foundries is the only large user that we have. So we have a large user rate setting policy in place that was updated a few years ago. We'll draw attention. I know there was some question earlier about the policy currently references that this hearing would normally be held with the second council meeting in May. The policy does allow for that schedule to be modified by the council. So we are bringing it forward at the end of April rather than May. Mostly because we were able to get budgets pulled together for the enterprise funds in a much timelier fashion this year. So we've kind of accelerated the schedule for the enterprise budget and rate setting process. So just a quick overview of the water fund budget that was approved by council at their at the end of March. The FY27 water budget is just over $2 million, which is about a 3.8% increase from FY26. Three primary drivers for the rate increases are we've got $50,000 increase in our contribution to the capital reserve for the water fund. We also have just over $17,000 in increase to the admin fees that the water fund pays to the general fund. And lastly, we have just under a $9,000 increase in personnel benefit expenses, which is primarily health insurance related. So what that means for the large volume water user rate is actually a decrease from the current year. So we're looking at it. It sounds like a large decrease at 7.98%, but it's really 9/100ths of a cent. So the rate is 0.158 per 1,000 gallons. And again, this is a rate that is charged right now just to Global Foundries. And the slide here kind of just walks through the calculation that is done each year. I'll also add that this, at the end of every fiscal year, the the rate and the amount that we charge to Global Foundries gets trued up actual to budget. So if Global used less water, they'll get a refund or a credit from the city. If they used more, then they will owe the difference to the city. Global also, because we have wholesale rate and the state water fee that we pay, Global pays those fees as well. So those are strictly a pass through from the city to Global Foundries. That's it for the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions that there might be.
Jess, how do we calculate the 13% of the city's water operating budget? How do we land on 13%?
Great question. I do not know. The policy that's been in existence for decades has always been at 13%. I really don't know the rationale behind the 13. So I'm assuming it has to do with their percentage of the total water usage. So that's something that we can look back at and reevaluate going forward. Global,
It's on their usage over years, and we haven't assessed whether that's changed at all.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is an agreement that was made between, actually, I believe IBM back in the day and the village. And there hasn't been, there's been no question or concern raised on Global Foundries side. They're very aware. When we updated the policy a few years ago, they were actually involved in that policy update. So we can revisit that policy review again and just have a conversation with them. I have 2 direct contacts at Global that I work with for this specific policy and charge that we bill.
Thanks, Jess.
Sure.
So, Jess, if I can ask, from the standpoint of, again, the large user rate is going down, recognizing 7/100ths or 7/1000s. But it's going down for the larger user rate while it's going up for the residents. So can I have a better understanding of the justification about why it's going down for them and up for everybody else? Versus if the cost generally, and the cost is being shared by all users, it would seem to me that that cost would rise for all, not lean toward one versus the other.
It's all based on usage. It's all based on how much water is consumed by Global and city as a whole. So in this case, Global's rate is going down in part because they've used less water in the last year.
They've used less water, which means that they're, and again, maybe this goes back to what Elaine was talking about, but it doesn't feel right that, I get that their usage has gone down, which then would potentially mean that their overall bill has come down. But again, the equivalency of rate being shared, it doesn't seem right that they would get a decrease, even though they've spent less. It still costs more to deliver. And the residents are paying more to deliver the water to them in this upcoming change, but they're gonna pay less. So, again, maybe I'm simplifying this, but if I'm not explaining myself correctly, please feel free to ask clarifying questions, because.
Yeah, no. So part of the difference in how the rates are, what affects the rates is that Global Foundries is paying the wholesale rate and the state fees directly. City customers are paying the wholesale rate and that fee, also that state fee as well. Um, in last year's budget, we projected, I believe it was like a 13% increase in the state fee, which didn't actually happen. There was no increase in the state fee. So part of this, the large user rate was calculated higher last year, um, than it needed to be. What we're seeing here is kind of a true up, an adjustment to what last year's actual, because this is all based on the prior year's actual, um, making assumptions to what next year's usage will be. Um, and then
This explanation revolves around the totality of the bill versus the cost per gallon. And to me, those are two very different things. And again, if we were to remove the state fees, so again, we're looking at the same piece of the bill for residents in comparison to the large user. If I'm pulling out what you've said correctly, then theoretically, it has been adjusted exactly the same for both the large user and the residents for what they have the same. The difference being that 13% in the state fees. And that's why, therefore, the residents are seeing an increase in their fee going into this year.
No, so the fee, you can't really compare the fee that Global Foundries pays to the fees that the city's users pay. Um, the city fee that's calculated for residents is, um, we're paying for the water and the operating budget. The fee that we're billing to Global Foundries is just, um, basically a service fee for the water flowing through our infrastructure to get to them. So they're paying the CWD wholesale rate, for every cubic foot or gallon of water that they use, um, as a pass through. So we're not billing Global Foundries. The rates, I don't know if I'm making any sense. The way
Trying to, again, dumb this down to the common denominator. So it's like, okay, that's fine. So therefore, if they're just paying us for basic operation, because maintenance and such, in order to make sure that this water flows correctly, I don't know that we can tease that out of what the residents are paying. Again, it doesn't feel good to me that the larger user rate is going down. I'll just keep it that. I'll just close it there. It doesn't feel good to me that the larger user rate is going down and the residents are paying more. This is a shared expense. And I don't know what that rate is. That decrease is small, being 9/1,000ths of a cent. But what does that total look like in the amount that they use? Is it $50,000?
Global Foundries is still paying more because they are also paying the increased wholesale rate. What you're seeing, this large user rate, is just like an admin fee. It has nothing to do with, the amount of, it's not directly tied to their water consumption. They are paying that plus this fee, where the city users are paying just the water fee, basically.
Okay.
I think it's fair to say that the two cannot be compared. They're two completely different methodologies. I get what you're saying, but they're can't be compared to each other.
Anything else?
I will beg to differ, but I will leave it at that. But, okay.
Brian or Tim?
I'm good.
Right.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Any public comment? Not seeing any, so I will close the public hearing. And we're gonna move on to 6A. So we're recognizing that this is Marcus and Elaine's last meetings. So we have some resolutions for them, and Elaine is up first, and Brian, would you do the honors, please?
All right. So the resolution in appreciation of Elaine Haney. Whereas Elaine was elected to one of two open positions on the first city council of Essex Junction in April of 2013. And whereas during that time, Elaine served as a council representative on the governance committee from January 2025 until December 2025. And whereas Elaine Haney was elected to the Village of Essex Junction Board of Trustees on April 2012 and served until April 2019. And whereas during that time, Elaine served as Vice President of the Board of Trustees in 2016 and 2017. And during that time, Elaine served as a trustee representative on the Governance Committee from June 2018 until April 2019. And whereas Elaine was a member of the Village Planning Commission from 2004 to 2007. And whereas Elaine was a Brownell Library trustee from 2003 to 2012. And whereas Elaine represented the city of Essex Junction on the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission as an equity leadership team member from 2021 to 2022, as an equity advisory committee member from 2022 to 2023, as a board of directors alternate representative from 2022 to 2021 to 2022, as a board of directors representative from 2022 to 2024, as an executive committee member from 2023 to 2024. And whereas Elaine represented the village of Essex Junction on the CCTV, Channel 17 Board of Trustees from 2012 to 2018, where she served as chair from 2015 to 2018, and later served as a city's representative from 2019 to 2024. And whereas Elaine's contributions to the village and city of Essex Junction are too numerous to list, however, they include sound budget and policy development, including the first strategic plan for the city, improved governance and community engagement practices, business relations, as well as support of the Crescent Connector roadway project, Toon Lincoln renovations project, the Public Works Facility Bond, whereas Elaine spearheaded the revival of the Social Services Grant Program for the city, and whereas Elaine will end her term as a city councilor on April 30th, 2026, concluding 23 years of dedicated service and leadership to the village, city of Essex Junction. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council, on behalf of the staff and citizens of the city of Essex Junction, hereby extend our most sincere appreciation to Elaine for her commitment and dedication to the residents of Essex Junction.
Some stuff.
You get presents.
Impressive.
Oh, yeah, it's tradition.
Oh my, oh, that's so pretty. Look at that. Oh, thank
We're
you.
trying to get rid of old t-shirts.
Nice. Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to have these things. A Public Works t-shirt. That's very exciting. Thank you all very, very much. It has been an absolute honor and a complete pleasure working with all of you and all the iterations of this council and the Board of Trustees and various managers and staff. And I just think Essex Junction is best, one of the very best cities in Vermont, and we work really hard to be that way, and it's been an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck, Elaine.
Not going anywhere.
All right, next up is the resolution for Marcus Certa.
Oh, there wasn't a business item we were skipping to?
No, sorry, pal, you're here for it.
You had your chance to modify.
Resolution in appreciation of Marcus Certa.
Believe me, I tried.
We did too. Whereas Marcus was elected to one of 2 open positions of the first City Council of Essex Junction in April of 2023, and whereas Marcus served as Vice President of the City Council from 2025 through 2026, and whereas Marcus served on CCTV Channel 17 Board of Trustees as the city's alternate representative, and whereas Marcus served on the Tree Farm Management Board, and whereas Marcus contributed to the development of the first strategic plan for the city, improved governance and community engagement practices, and provided support for the Crescent Connector roadway project, 2 Lincoln renovation project, and the Public Works Facility bond. And whereas Marcus will end his term as city councilor on April 30th, 2026, concluding 3 years of dedicated service and leadership to the city of Essex Junction. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Essex Junction City Council, on behalf of staff and citizens of the city of Essex Junction, hereby extend our most sincere appreciation to Marcus for his commitment and dedication to the residents of Essex Junction.
Thanks, buddy.
I'm definitely not going anywhere either, so.
You get presents too.
You get presents
Yeah.
too.
Hey.
Listen,
Thank you. Thank you.
guys,
Next time when they wake me up at 7 a.m. with the super sucker in front of my house, I'm going to wear this.
that shirt will get you
Show my
places.
support.
I bet it does.
Thank you.
Well, you'll
That's
wear
very
it to the
kind.
ribbon cutting when you come visit.
There we go.
That's
Absolutely.
a great idea.
And the ground.
And we're going to have a ceremonial groundbreaking.
Yes.
Too.
Oh,
We'll discuss that.
Yeah.
Make sure we're
With
there
the
for
truck
that.
in.
Yeah, shovel in the thing. And then,
Shovel.
yep.
Yeah.
Clean shovel.
Yep.
Exactly. All right. Sorry, guys. We have to get on to actual, non-fun business here. But all right, let's go on to 7A, discussion and consideration of the FY27 Enterprise Fund water, wastewater, sanitation, and stormwater rates. And Jess is back.
I'm back. All right, so in your packet, you have a table that lists all of the FY27 rates for each fund, usage and fixed rates, as well as the large water user rate, the wastewater wholesale rate, and the stormwater ERU rate. So in summary, the combined cost to a city resident using the average 120 gallons per day for water, wastewater, and sanitation will increase by just over 7.5%, or roughly $62 per year. As we just mentioned in the public hearing, the large user rate will decrease by just under 8%. The wastewater treatment wholesale rate is also decreasing by 0.3%. And the stormwater rate will increase by $34.59 per ERU per year. That's roughly just under a 64% increase. And just to give a little more information on that, that is mostly due to the addition of the capital reserve contribution for the stormwater fund. So staff's recommendation is to adopt the rates that are proposed, and these are all based on the budgets that were approved at the end of March. Happy to answer any questions.
Council, questions?
We have been through these rates and through these rates and through
Yes,
these rates.
correct.
So
Correct. All right, any public comment? None in the room. Seeing none online. Who would like the motion?
I have it. I move that the City Council approve the FY27 utility rates for water, wastewater, sanitation, and stormwater as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous.
Uh,
Oh,
nay.
no, sorry. I heard you. Thank you for, apparently I need a hearing aid. You're
okay.
voting no? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay, still passes with 4 to 1, so. All right. Thank you, guys. Don't go anywhere, Jess. It's the Jess Morris Show. So, Finance Department head brief, including the Capital Review Committee.
All
Update.
right. So I'll run through kind of some highlights, and I'll do sort of a combined Finance Department and Capital Committee. Capital Committee is very integrated into the work that Finance does because it is all tied to the capital budgeting process and planning process. So that's why it's presented here as kind of a combined conversation. So we had another year of successful audits and monitoring visits from the state of Vermont, and continuing lots of process improvement around grants, which has shown in our audits. The annual financial audit has gone smoother and smoother every year, and still continues with no findings. So hoping to continue that into the next audit later this fall as well. We did hire a new accounts receivable coordinator. So the person who was with us last time I presented to you guys left last fall. So Allison joined us in October, and she basically jumped right into the first round of utility billing at the end of October, and has been through a few cycles of that. She also was a huge asset in helping us get the stormwater utility finalized and included in that first round of bills in October. And she's already starting cross-training on payroll, which has been a goal of the finance department since I got here 4 years ago, is to have a payroll backup. So we are well on our way to that now. We had a lot of things come down the pike related to federal and best practice changes over the last year that definitely have slowed down some of our work right at important times, audit and calendar year end, but we were able to kind of work through, gain knowledge and understanding of what those new rules and regulations are, and continuing to work through especially the qualified overtime federal regulations. It got implemented for 2025 and then is continuing for the next 3 years. And we're still trying to work through how to track all of that and report it out at the end of the calendar year. As I mentioned earlier, we accomplished the goal of having enterprise budgets ready with the general fund budget this year. So that was super exciting and a huge improvement over prior years. And probably my favorite personal highlight of the last several months, as you all know, I serve on the Vermont Government Finance Officers Association board, and we were lucky enough to host the New England Fall Conference last September at Jay Peak, and the conference was very well attended, one of the best attended in. There are 6 different states that host, and we kind of rotate through each year. And we had some awesome presenters, really great networking opportunities with not just fellow Vermont finance directors, but New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut as well. So it's kind of cool to see how other people do things, other communities and municipalities do things that run the gamut from teeny tiny towns to cities that like have finance departments that are larger than our whole city staff. So really cool to just experience that and network with those folks. And so the capital committee work that we've done, we switched to quarterly meetings a couple years back now. those are going really well. The timing seems to work really well for the committee and feeding into the budget process. So this past year, we have worked on re-ranking some existing projects. We got updated project cost estimates for everything. We did get to rank one new project this year, which was cool. That was the Main Street Shared Use Path. And all of this was done in time to make pass recommendations on to staff and council for the capital budget planning process for FY27. And looking ahead, we're continuing on our cross-training policy updates, rolling out the next phases of Questica, our budgeting software. Unfortunately, we're going to be a little bit behind where we wanted to be on that project this year, just due to staff turnover. But finance staff right now is actually working through kind of some trainings to become super users to get the department heads trained up on this in the coming months, this system. One of the other big goals that we have is to get all of our fixed asset inventory kind of in preparation for year-end and audit this year. We've got two big projects that we want to get done. One is updating our fixed asset inventory, moving it all into our finance software, Nemrick, rather than currently right now it lives in spreadsheets, which we all know can be a nightmare when you're trying to track lots of things and different funds. The other thing we're working on right now is updating our key control document. So this is the document that I introduced to the city when I started, and we kind of review and update every year. It's basically the document that details all of the internal controls and procedures that we have for cash handling primarily, but budgeting and lots of other personnel management, everything are in there as well. And then on the capital committee front, continuing with our quarterly meetings, we're going to review and adjust existing projects that are on the current ranked file. And we started talking about the sidewalk policy updates that are coming down the pike, and having the capital committee somewhat involved in that process, just to sort of understand what the sidewalk policy is and how that relates to the capital planning work that we do for various projects throughout the city, and also hopefully have some input on that process and how it relates to the portion of lot funds that are earmarked for sidewalk improvements as well. So overall, another very, very busy year, but the team everybody shows up every day willing to work hard, do a really good job, and stay focused at the task. They're very flexible when new things get thrown in our direction, and everyone's just had a really good sense of humor through it all. So that's where we're at.
Any questions for Jess? Yep.
Jess, can I get just a quick example? Because I love upskilling and development of personnel, and you spoke very well about the conference, and I'm just curious, like, can you give an example of like something that came out of that conference that you either learned or you thought was interesting that maybe, who knows, maybe we'll be talking about something you learned in the future. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think probably the most interesting topic to me was actually about, very relevant to what's going on today, cybersecurity, fraud, and there were FBI and state police presenters that were just sort of like telling us about the tips and tricks that these hackers and these fraudsters are using. Um, and one of the most interesting things I think that came out of that is just one, it's like fascinating to know that even the detectives who are chasing these guys down say they're 10 steps ahead of us. We will probably never be ahead of them. Um, and uh, so one of the really interesting things that came out of that that has also been brought forward by VLCT and a couple other organizations is changing the domain to a .gov away from .org. Um, that alone lends itself to um, less spam, less junk, less attempts at fraud, which I thought was really interesting that like the .gov actually does carry some weight. So that's one thing that we are currently working on trying to figure out how to implement too. So yeah.
Can I just want to touch on the piece of it with the new tax laws that came down, because we all heard the headlines there was no tax on overtime. When the reality of it is that was a headline. And so I dealt with it a lot where I work. It's qualified overtime, and it's only the half. So there had to have been some interesting struggles. It was April. We just came through tax season, and I'm wondering how much of an undertaking for you and your staff was it to try and figure all of that out in the process, in the time, as you know, I mean, I was still getting letters in February on how to deduct the half of the overtime that qualified, but then there was compensated time in there, and if there was vacation time that was offset. So it was, I don't know if you could just touch on that a little bit so we can cut through the headline and understand what happened behind the doors.
Mhm. Yeah, so it took, I would say, probably weeks to get this figured out. Unfortunately, it was a rule that came down like in the late summer, early fall, and so it applied back to January 1, right? And we had to look back several months to try to figure out, you know, our systems had no reporting mechanisms built in to just spit a report out. Um, so there was a lot of manual work. This is another area where the um, Government Finance Officers Association came in. Like we all, most everyone on the board is a finance director in a community, and one of our um, board meetings became kind of a think tank of like how do we do this, and everybody put their heads together to to see, you know, what other communities were doing, what do we have to do. That was the big thing, is understanding what we legally had to provide. um, and so we were able to kind of pull together the information manually for 2025 and get that out with the end of year reporting to employees. We definitely had a lot of questions, but we sort of took the route of there was a kind of a standard deduction that you could do for 2025. 2026 is when the real reporting kicks in. Um, the interesting thing and very complicated thing about the city is that qualified overtime, the feds consider overtime um, hours worked, where the city considers you get overtime for if you work 20 hours and took 20 hours of vacation time. Um, so the requirements are totally different. Our system does not separate out the reporting the way that the feds require it. So we are now having to track manually in Excel spreadsheets outside of our payroll system what is actually qualified every pay period. So it's been a huge undertaking for the finance department, and definitely created a lot of manual work.
Thanks, Jess. I appreciate that. As someone who works for a large corporation, we got a letter in February that said they're not auditing this year. Take what you want.
Yeah.
This multinational conglomerate just kind of threw up their hands and went, "We don't know what to tell you." So
Yeah.
I just want to put that in perspective because it was, it was a lot for us. I can imagine what it was for you guys. So I just wanted to take a minute and express that. I
Yes.
appreciate the work behind the scenes from everyone that made an attempt to get the information as accurate as possible and the work that still continues.
Yeah. Cindy actually heard from, there are a couple other towns that use a payroll vendor for their payroll, so like ADP or another one of those companies, and heard that they told their customers, "It's on you, we're not figuring it out." So
Yeah.
Brian, do you have anything?
Jess, thanks for all that. My question was, do you see any challenges for budgeting and planning for this upcoming year on the if we were to happen to pull the election back by a month? Are you ready for that?
I am ready. So my former employment, we worked on the town meeting, the traditional March town meeting deadline. So I'm very comfortable with that. I've got a schedule actually already created. And I think the work that we did this past budget cycle to move the enterprise budget preparation up, and moving our audit up last year as well into September, we moved it up a month earlier. All of those things definitely set us up to be successful if we move to town meeting next year. So I have no worries about it. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. Yep.
No, good.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Jess.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
All right, 7C, discussion and consideration of the rebranding initiative, entry signs and rollout timeline. Ashley is with us.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Regina's going to pull up the signs for us because I'm usually at home. So I was like, oh, how do I do this tonight? So in the packet, you guys are going to see some designs from Place for our 5 entrance signs and for our municipal signs. In here, they're labeled 1A for the entrance signs or 1B for the municipal signs that we might replace throughout the city. The rebranding committee is suggesting that we move forward with concept A, which is the first one that you guys are going to see. We felt that this sign was the most readable sign out of all of them. We felt that it also had the logo where it was standing out a bit more prominently. And then really it was tying more into some of our branded items that we already have already said that approved. So like our banner, for instance. We thought that this tied in the best with those other products that we're already producing. One of the things that we do need to consider with these signs, I guess I should go through all the signs. Let's do that first.
Okay.
So this is option A, and 1B, which would be anything outside the municipal offices or Brownell or any of our other signage within the city. Concept B, this one has instead of it all being rounded, it has that little cutout for the circle icon. Again, we thought that the full rounded was more smoother, just made it a little bit more, I thought, cleaner, whenever we were looking at this. So that's option 2, and this is what it would look like at the city offices. Concept C, this one is similar to concept B, but it has the reversal of the colors where it's more dark. We preferred the lighter colors. We thought that it made the logo pop more and made it stand out, those colors more. So we shied away from the darker colors, which would be the next 2 designs. So again, that's what the municipal office signs would look like. And then with concept D again, this one's very basic sign. And so I felt like it was very bland. And again, we didn't really like those dark colors. We really felt that white helped make that logo pop out. And then that would be what it would look like at the municipal level. And then the last concept is concept E. This was one that was put in there, but Even Place said to us, we don't suggest this sign. And so this was like, when I even showed it to the department heads, I just skipped it. I was like, no, this is not even going in there, but it is part of the signage package, so I am bringing it forward today. But again, this is very hard to read, we feel like, and would not be the best option of representing our city. So those are the concepts. If you'll go back to the one that we're suggesting, which is the first one, option A, just so that we have that up. Thank you. So the other thing, part of the sign package, is we need a decision on the organizational panels. So right now, our current signs have an organizational panel. I didn't even know what was on this until I went and actually took a picture of it. I don't know if you guys knew what was on it before you saw the picture. But I am suggesting that we leave this off. One, it is something we're going to have to update if we do that. Right now it has the farmer's market on it. It's something that we would have to update.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt, Ashley? What,
Yeah.
Can you define organizational panel?
So it has specific organizations. Yeah. Yeah, so it has the Rotary, the Lions Club, the Kiwanis Club, it would be the Farmers Market, CVE, and then the Grange, which I had no idea what that was until I talked to Cindy. And they're still around. I didn't even know that they were still around. So, but I feel like, one, as I said, we'll have to replace some of these. It's something that we would have to replace if we decided to put a certain organization on there. You have literally 3 seconds to see a sign, a billboard or sign. You have 3 to 5 seconds to read it. You're not seeing these signs. Nobody's seeing them. Again, like I said, I didn't even know what these signs were on here until I went and took this picture. And then the other thing is, it does have a sort of favoritism. There are probably other organizations in our community that would love to have their logo on our sign, and how we would have to develop a process in order to put those on that sign. So I am suggesting that we leave that off and just have our beautiful new logo as our entrance sign. So what I need from you guys tonight is a direction on the sign, which ones you guys like the best, if you want to move forward with option A, which is what the committee is suggesting, and your decision on if we're adding back in these panels and then or leaving them off. The other thing in the memo just talks a little bit about where we're at in the process. And we are almost ready to get this over the finish line, guys. We're right there. So I had them to go back with the style guide and do 2 other things that I felt needed to be in the style guide. One of them is how our uniforms are for our employees. We have very specific guidelines on what our employees can have for their uniforms, for our public works and our wastewater specifically. And so I also wanted to differentiate the t-shirts or the uniforms that our staff has, and then what we have for the public, because I'd love to sell merchandise at one point in time with our new logo on it. So that needs to be different, so nobody can be showing up with a Public Works logoed shirt.
Who would do that? I'm just supervising. I don't know what you're talking about.
So
the next water main break.
So I have asked them to do those designs for me, and also decals for our trucks, because we have 3 different color trucks. So I want to make sure that we have a logo that looks good on whatever piece of equipment that we have out there. And so we also have been reviewing all of the templates the committee has, and I've also been having the department heads, since they are the main users who will be using these templates, to also be looking at them. We've done some voting at some department head meetings. We are very close. There are 2 other things that they need to get me, and then we will have all of our templates completed as well. And so the goal is to have it by May 22nd. That's still flexible. It depends on what they send me and my changes that I have back and forth with them and how long that takes. So that's what we're we're trying for. And then the goal is to start rolling out everything to staff by June 1st so that they can start learning the new logo. We can start slowly replacing everything internally. And then hopefully by July 1, we're having everything out to the community. And I would love to have a sign unveiling around that time. So that
I think we
is.
should sell little super suckers,
It's a
like
good
Tonka
idea.
trucks.
I love it.
That's,
With our new logo on.
that's funny.
Telling you.
That's cute. I love it.
Love it.
I've already got ideas for merchandise, so it's perking around in my head.
Ricky will agree with me on that.
Yeah, sure you will. Does anybody have any questions, comments for Ashley? Marcus?
I'll simply say that I agree that we should not do the organizational sign, and I'm fully prepared to read the motion as it's recommended in here, because I also agree that option A, I think, is our best option.
Any other?
I agree that option A is the best one. I'm not, my only concern with removing the organizational banners is I'm not sure that those organizations didn't pay for those. So, but it doesn't, seems to me like option A could support adding them back if that becomes something we want to do in the future. Is that a fair interpretation? And Tim, who was on the.
They were there because they helped pay for the signage, which
Right.
has reached the end of its life, as you can tell by the signs that are missing the banner now, as they've fallen and rotted away.
I think I've been very close to those signs, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And at least one doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So,
So
the
I
farmer's
think
market.
since we're removing,
Oh, right.
Not the sign,
removing
the-
that
Yeah.
piece of the equation altogether, I don't have an issue removing the organizations.
Okay.
They're not going to them with a
Yeah.
request for anything. Yeah.
Are you good?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I think that it leaves the option open if we were
Okay.
wanted to fundraise and put those in, so.
If we did, we would have to consider, so how these signs are currently done. They're closer down to the ground. So right now our signs are pretty high off the ground so that organizational. So it kind of does need to be decided or we're going to have to re-poll the signs. Does that make sense, Brian?
That makes sense. How high is it from the bottom here to the?
I don't know if I have those signs.
Because I get that we're not getting six
It's
back there,
probably
but we might get
20 inches if you look at the scale, 2 foot maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so like I said, how option A is right now, it will be lower to the ground than what it is right now.
Yeah.
And so we would need to think about that and plan for that if that was something that you guys wanted to plan and have it higher up or have it where like it's situated right now.
Thoughts?
I think my personal opinion is it's simple, it's clean. We're not going to anybody looking to fundraise for this. Can I have just a quick refresher? The entry signs were included in the original rebranding budget, but I feel like when we did the ribbon cutting for 2 Lincoln, that the municipal sign was not allocated, correct?
That's correct. So right now we have lot funding for the entrance signs and for the banners. If we wanted to do the municipal signs later on, we would have to have funding for that. We did not put that in, and it wasn't an option at the time because we didn't know what our signage would be. We didn't know how much it would change, and so we didn't really want to move forward with a whole package. But we knew that all the entrance signs were going to have to be replaced because they are very much deteriorating.
Okay.
I'm more in favor of just having the welcome to the city without the extra organizational logos.
There is a motion that just asks about the different options. Do you want me to separate?
No,
Just leave it? Okay.
No,
Okay.
that's fine.
I will open it up to public comment if there's no other comment among the table here. Okay. Risa?
Thank you. Depending upon if they really are only 20 inches above the ground, if we get some superstorm, snowstorm, are they going to be high enough or are we going to lose our signs?
Rita, I was merely guessing that based off of one of the renderings. It's
not a-
it's
it's
a
not-
height to scale. I'm
not an engineer's
yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it's probably taller than that. I was just trying to give a rough idea. It's not like if you look at the existing signs, our piece of it is 6 foot in the air, and then the sponsored boards are underneath that kind of eye level. So this proposal shifts shifts everything down so that there's not enough room under our stuff for additional stuff.
Right.
And
But we don't have to pay attention to the 20 inches. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I get 20 inches here all the time.
No, and I will be working with Ricky and the sign company on what's the best placement for this. This will not be something that like, this is exactly what it's going to, like the final thing. This is just a rendering from Place, who's the designers. Then we'll work with the sign company once we get some quotes back on what the appropriate, and with Ricky, our public works director, to make sure that all that is worked out when it comes to mowing or when it comes to snowplow.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I'm just sort of extrapolating from having been close to these and looking at them, and from the design, it looks like sort of the bottom of the slogan would kind of be installed like about the same height as the current the current top three. I keep forgetting the term you're using for like the Rotary and those
The organizations.
Organization
Yeah.
panels, yeah. And I think to Reese's concerns, I mean, we rarely get over the organizational panels on the existing signs now, I don't think. So, do we?
Like
you mean
wise or
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah,
I-
I'd be
yeah.
surprised too.
Yeah, and even if we did get up at that height, first we're blocking the logo, then we're blocking Junction, and,
Yeah.
So I think, I'm asking if you think that we would be okay under that situation.
Are you asking about putting the organizational panel back?
No,
Okay,
no,
just
no.
like you're thinking like snow-wise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to address Reese's concern
Okay.
about like them. Well, like Reese, is your concern them being knocked over by snow or them being covered by snow and you not know where the city line is?
I'm thinking back to when I was in college and in our snowstorms, we had this handrail walking up this steep hill. And in the winter, we would lose the handrail. And I would say, why do you remove the handrail? And they would say, we don't, it's under snow. I don't want our welcome to Essex, the city of Essex Junction signs to disappear. It would be such an incredible storm if they knocked over. It wasn't how strong they are. It was the 20 inches. And I'm thinking, oh my.
Yeah,
But to be clear, just so that I understand, based on the ask that we're being asked to consider today, though, we're just talking about design.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the actual final form still will need to be worked out. So-
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
this is just the design, what it's
Yep.
the physical look of it. We have not talked to we have not sent this to a sign company and said, hey, what would this look like? What would the dimensions be? We have not done that yet. This is just clearly, we have to get the design so that then we can then send it to them.
Sounds great.
so it sounds like we're leaning no organizations and ready for a motion. But okay,
Yeah.
Marcus.
I move that the city council approve option A for the city entrance sign design. And should I add the no organizational,
I don't think.
to not include the organizational sign? No?
I think we're fine.
Okay, so,
She heard us.
all right, good, thank you.
Can you need a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think that was unanimous.
It was.
Okay.
Regina, do you want me to stay here for the
Thanks.
kiosk?
Sure.
All right, so discussion, 7D, discussion and consideration of the railroad and Main Streets kiosk.
So I'm going to share my screen again. This is another sign. A sign that has been in kind of rough shape for a while. Railroad Avenue and Main Street. We brought a update to the council back a couple of months ago. So ultimately, this side of the sign that we're looking at that faces Main Street, this was done with byway funding, federal funding through a CCRPC program. That funding comes with a set period of time that we can't change these signs, not in any big way. We are able to update all of it, but it needs to retain all of the concept of this being a wayfinding sign as part of the larger byway, scenic byway in along Lake Champlain. So we have worked with CCRPC to get all of these panels redesigned and updated. So again, it's not talking about the farmers market, it's talking about the city of Essex Junction, not the village. A whole slew of things change over time. So the question before you is, what do we do with the top? So there are holes right now from some old clocks that were really like you plugged them in or something that didn't work. This first option is replacing those with signs, with clocks, I'm sorry, that require little maintenance. They keep themselves updated. They're connected with Ethernet.
Ethernet, yeah.
So that is option A. Option 2, similar with the clocks, but a different color of the Essex Junction component of it. Option 3 is not a clock, just the logo that we were just talking about. This is, these clocks will be low maintenance, but this will be none.
Even lower.
Or take it off altogether. This is my least favorite, just if it's curious about my opinion of it. But so those, we just need some direction from the council on this. And then also this memo includes overall the cost estimates as we've pulled them together so far. We will need to probably use the Economic Development Fund to be able to get these updated. Thoughts?
I just want to say, in defense of the clock back in the day, the intention was to have a nice, elegant clock like that you would see getting off the train. And we ended up with like these 2 classroom clocks that weren't even weatherproof.
That's what
Like,
they were, too.
where did they even come from?
They came from a classroom.
As soon as they went up, I was like, that's not
Yeah.
what we meant.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see them go. I like option 3.
Brian?
You know, I like option 3. I mean, I did hear some feedback about the clock, but from those constituents that said, no, don't worry about it. So like, as long as it looks central and pretty as a downtown exposure, which I think we get with option 3. That said, and it's clear that the design of option 3 on the big screen here, that the Essex Junction is in yellow because that's just Photoshop.
Yeah,
You
this
wouldn't
is.
leave it yellow there. That's inconsistent with the style guide.
Yes, yes, yes. As I told Regina when we were talking about this, I was like, it's going to be a rough mock-up. This is me because I don't have the logos. I don't have anything right yet. And so it's me playing with Photoshop on this. So yeah, it will look a lot better.
I think if it were the black that is in the style guide, it would look great, honestly. But-
Yeah. So my minutia kind of question, in option 3, the logo is, you know how we just talked about the signs coming into the city are just like this, but then the top of this looks like
does.
the other one.
It
So
does.
Is that going to be fixed, or is it?
No, so this would, the idea of this is we are not, if we're doing just that option 3, we're not changing the actual structure of the sign. But yes, it does have that characteristic of option 2, but that would require us obviously to build in a new part of that. So that's going to cost more money, which we can, but again, if that's what we want to do with this sign. Yeah.
I like
No.
the clock is lovely, but I'd rather have the $7,000, right? That was the number. that was in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, the clocks
Yeah.
themselves are 2,500 out of this.
Yeah,
whole-
no.
Yeah.
but, yeah.
Marcus?
I agree with everything that's been said so far. Outside of the fact that I am not a fan of option number 3 so much, I would probably rather find a different way to lock it up, whether it's just straight rectangle on top. Because I didn't like this option 2 in in our previous discussion. So I'm not a fan of this particular lockup. So I'd rather, again, square it off. That way it's a couple of boards, relatively cheap top that goes on it, that can be done in a I think a nice cleaner lockup, personally. But then again, I'm not going to die on this hill for this either. So if the council wants number 3, I'm happy to go along with that.
Tim?
We're presented 4 options. I don't think that you have a 5th, right?
Yeah. He is creating a thing.
I mean, in theory, it's
Just
simple,
saying.
extending the top there across to the top of the. But yeah, I reached out to a bunch of people, and everybody was kind of indifferent about clock versus no clock. I told Regina that I have a soft spot in my heart for clocks because when I go home to New York, there's a clock, 4-sided clock in the town square, and it always just kind of reminds me of home when I pull in. But I don't know if that, like, everybody I talked to was kind of indifferent about it. So if you guys are happy with 3, I can certainly, go. I'm fine with that.
That clock is probably exactly what Elaine and the trustees were thinking.
I'll show you a picture after.
Yeah.
Just for the
It's
record.
beautiful.
And I
Yeah,
will-
no, they were classroom. They were indoor clocks. So like,
I will say the picture is not the real clock either. That's not what it would look
Yeah, that's
like.
fine.
So
Yeah.
just to temper
Appreciate
anybody's
that.
expectations.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and can I
ahead.
just say, if we're going to have a clock that is historic Essex Junction, it should be one like a time and temperature clock, like it was on the Merchants Bank.
Oh, God.
So let's not do that either.
Okay.
My only concern about not having a clock is how is Marty McFly going to how is he going to get there?
it
He's
could
going to
be
be stuck.
could be a nice teachable moment trying to get the youngsters to read an analog.
Not for the 2 to 2,500
Yeah,
bucks or 2,500 bucks. All right, I'm gonna open up for public comment. Any public comment on this? Because it's just getting unruly now. It's really early to be unruly, guys. All right, I'm not seeing, apparently my mouse doesn't want to work, but I'm not seeing any hands up unless, Regina, do you see any?
I do not see any.
Okay. All right, who wants to take the motion?
Lost it in my clock pages.
Computer.
I got it if you guys don't.
Yeah, good.
I move that the city council authorize the use of the Economic Development Fund in an amount not to exceed $7,000 for the kiosk replacement project.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tim, did you vote?
Aye.
Okay,
Sorry,
thank you. All right, that's unanimous.
getting late in my day.
Thank you, guys. All right. 7E, discussion of traffic calming policy and update. What's computer?
So, as you may recall, on December 17th, the City Council had adopted an updated traffic calming policy that changes the process through which residents and stakeholders can request roadway modifications to address speed and safety concerns. So we took a bunch of the previous speed concerns and complaints that we've received and did some desktop analysis to get a preliminary look at what the priorities come out to be, and also how the scoring system is working. what you see on the screen right now is the results of that. So the darker the color for the circles, the higher the priority. If it's you may also recall that the traffic calming policy had several thresholds. You had to these locations had to exceed in order to proceed for further engagement and design work. And the locations that are X'd out here have kind of been cut by not passing those thresholds. So, I mean, I would say that these thresholds are kind of intentionally conservative. I mean, we're trying to focus efforts where it would have the largest impact, and maybe we lopped off a little too much, but I think at least in the short to medium term, this is probably a good thing. I mean, it helps focus efforts where I think it's likely the most needed. I'll point out as well that Park Street, so Park 3, Park 4, those two locations stand out as at the highest priority based on the scoring metrics right now. This and I think it's timely now that the next item is going to be the consideration of changes to the striping and lane layouts for Park Street. This is really just an update. I think the intent here is that throughout the summer, when we have capacity to advance this, we'll take. We'll do some public engagements and hold the required public meetings for some of these high priority locations and take it to the next step within available resources. But I'm here for any questions.
Marcus?
So we're obviously going to be talking about Park Street. So so looking at these priorities and thinking about what we have ahead and what's been allotted for this year, there are 5 in the high priority. So, because if Park Street is theoretically taken care of by our next discussion, then as we go down the list, then we've got 5 other items. Can we tackle those 5 items, or is there a way that you're going to prioritize within this high priority? Because I have a feeling we're not going to be able to do 5 projects based on what.
No, that's right. That's right. So the process, the policy spells out a process of how you get to the final priority score. This is actually a preliminary priority score. So it's going to be based on public feedback of that will tell us a little bit more about the land uses and the specific needs over there, the kind of public support there is for changes in each area, and there's also there's a design component to it as well. I think it's written so that we can pick from among the highest priority spots, but not necessarily the highest. Just based on what is the most feasible and what makes the most sense when there's an opportunity to implement.
Okay. Other questions, Brian?
One of the things that stands out to me on this map, and maybe forgive me just because it's my neighborhood, is that that North Street does not meet the thresholds, but Grove Street does. One of the things that I tell my constituents who, and again, this is the most common thing that I get complaints about, is one thing that you can do is park on the street, and it makes the street narrower. My theory is that the people on the corner of North and Central park on the street, and that is slowing down traffic on North Street. But that's my theory. I was wondering if you had any theories behind some of this data that would back up whether that theory has any basis or not.
I don't have the details behind that at the moment. I can tell you there are a lot of land use factors that feed into whether or not they hit the cutoff. So it might not just be the speeds.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So you didn't want to know about the one right in front of your house? Just kidding.
Well, what I want to say to my neighbor that lives right there is that, yeah, like, yes, you're right. It is your end of the street, but still not the worst part in town. We're getting to you.
Any other questions for Chris? All right, public, any public comment? Yep.
So I'm on the John Brand Fight Walk Committee. Just one comment.
John, you can come to this mic.
I'll just come over here. So just one thing about this, because we went over it at the meeting just last or the week before?
2 weeks ago.
Last 2 weeks now. So this is data from 3 previous years. None of this is recently submitted. So in order for it to really get the wheels moving on these, we will need people to resubmit those. So there's not going to be like an immediate movement on a lot of these, and who knows, maybe some of these problems just magically solve themselves. So we'll see. But of course, it'll be depending on people really bringing it back to the attention of the city now that we have adopted this new policy. Just wanted to put that out there as well.
Can I ask a follow-up to that, Chris, for you? I mean, would that be true, that we can't act on this? I feel like you've got enough data, you had enough data to put this map together that we could be proactive if we had to wait for another complaint, but I feel like we could jump on something without waiting for another complaint to come in.
I think we can, and my intent is to take some of these to the public engagement step and get the final score here.
Meaning that we're going to reach out to these
Right.
sections
Right.
and invite them to a public meeting.
Well, that's right. We'll probably stick some signs in the green belt over there for a couple of weeks to say that there's this meeting coming up about traffic calming exactly right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we welcome additional feedback, but I think we can treat the previous concerns and complaints as as valid.
Any other, Brian?
That was an interesting point. Do you have the dates at which these were collected? I assume they were more recent than they were. My concern is that a lot of the complaints, certainly in the quadrant, it's a term that I live in, is strongly affected by high school traffic, right? So if the measurements are taken during the summer, that they're going to be different than if they're in the last day of school after all the seniors got their driver's license, right? So I'd just like to see that if you have it. I don't need it today.
So any speed data that's associated with this was what Officer Gregg had put together in the past. I don't remember exactly when the measurements were taken. Any measurements we need to take going forward, I would certainly be considering whether or not I suspect that school traffic is a big component of it, and we have some help allocated from with CCRPC's equipment to do this kind of a speed study. Some of which can be done, during the school year, and some of it will.
Right. I understand that temperature's a factor, but
Right.
but spring and fall
Yep.
can is different than July for the purposes both my neighborhood and y'all's, like by Hiawatha, right?
Yeah.
I fixed my parking problem.
Anything else?
I just want to make a note that in looking at the map and all of the speed studies that don't reach the threshold, but they're all along certain lengths, I just think it's still worth looking at. Like when you look at Cascade and Dunbar, I mean, like the entire length is people are complaining about that.
Actually, so it doesn't mean just because there are multiple points along each street, it doesn't mean there were multiple complaints. People are usually not as specific as about the location. They usually people just say Cascade Street. For the methodology to work in terms of evaluating land uses, we had and what's around there and counting the crashes and whatnot, we had to specify a segment length and a buffer.
I see.
So we replicated them on a regular interval, so that to make sure we didn't accidentally pick a spot that didn't qualify, but then just a little bit over it would. So yeah, I wouldn't consider the number of spots you see as much as just the name of the street.
But wouldn't you say, though, that if there looks like there are 4 different ones on Cascade, does that mean 4 different times a request of some kind came in for a speed test on Cascade?
No,
That's
that
not
is
what that means.
That is not what that means. It means we got 1 or more complaints on Cascade streets, and then we were just methodologically testing different segments of Cascade Street in case one of them did hit the threshold.
Okay, thanks, that's helpful.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay. All right, we're moving on to 7F, which is discussion and consideration of Park Street, complete street improvements, public engagement results, parking data, and alternative selection.
All right. So yeah, there's a memo in your packet that's details the high level points over here, but a lot of work has been completed with the design and outreach about the Park Street's proposed changes. Some of these slides you've seen before, so it's in your packet if you want to see them in detail. But, I will focus on the new material. So yeah, I think it's obvious that Park Street is a critical gap in the bike network over here. I think for most people using this corridor on a bicycle, it's the weakest link is what matters in terms of their perceptions of safety along anywhere they're trying to go, and this is currently it for many people going south. These changes to Park Street and this type of project has been called for in several different plans in the past. Connect the Junction calls for both a short-term implementation of what we're talking about over here, as well as long-term changes that involve a separated cycle track in the future. So Park Street does have some significant safety issues. There are high observed speeds, and we believe that the wide lanes are not helping. Without bike lanes, with this gap in the bike lane network, there's always a need for drivers to cross the center line to pass cyclists, and that is uncomfortable and risky for all road users. And parked cars, in all situations, have the potential to impede sight lines. 109 crashes were reported, 5 with injuries, and 2 pedestrian fatalities in recent years. So, important to note what the parking impacts may be of any changes here. So this is just a summary of what parking spaces are, what on-street parking spaces exist right now. I also note that just on the northern edge of this image, which is the left side, is the Park Street School parking lot with 41 spaces. So at the high level, the 3 alternatives are to maintain the existing conditions. That's called alternative 0 here. There's adding buffered bike lanes, fairly wide buffered bike lanes with alternative 1, and alternative 2 would be bike lanes with parking on one side. This is what the cross sections would generally look like. It depends, it changes a little bit for different sections. So I'll note that there is no big change proposed for Zone A. So Zone A is a part that is in front of 34 Park Street. This is a part that was changed with the Crescent Connector. There was previously more angled parking on the east side, which became a turn lane for the railroad streets. So the only change proposed here is the addition of some pavement markings. I will, these are just images of what the plan view of these alternatives look like. I don't think I need to go through in detail. It's all in your packet, and it hasn't really changed from before. So, staff believes that alternative 1 and 2 would both improve safety, but particularly alternative 1. Partly because of narrower lanes, which should encourage slower and more predictable speeds. And 11 feet is still wide enough to accommodate trucks, buses, and emergency vehicles. Dedicated space for each user helps manage conflicts between moving traffic and parked cars and improved driveway visibility. This is a summary of the expected benefits and trade-offs. We talked about safety already. Bike network connectivity, obviously fills in the gap. We don't expect traffic impact. And when I say traffic impact, I'm talking about moving traffic, not parked traffic, because the 2 travel lanes are maintained and there's no change proposed to any of the turn lanes. On-street parking impacts, alternative 1 would result in 23 fewer parking spaces, on-street parking spaces than there are right now. And alternative 2 would result in 15 fewer spaces. In terms of cost, these changes involve the changes to pavement marking only. There's no curb or utility work. So if it's coordinated with the annual restriping work, there are some efficiencies there. We expect that there is it should be possible within the available funds, but we'd have to work through the implementation details and quotes and whatnot. In alignment with adopted city plans, we already spoke about that. In terms of public engagements, a lot of work was done between March and early April through multiple channels. It was on the websites, it was on social media. We put out press releases. In fact, this was picked up by 2 news stories on TV. We did mail and in-person outreach to adjacent businesses and property owners as well. And there was a public survey. In terms of the public survey, there were 149 total responses. Out of the respondents, 75% of them say they travel this corridor daily or weekly. So, just at a high level, I think the survey showed that most the respondents did travel by driving along this road at least some of the time. There's overlap. Cyclists and people who walk here also tend to drive. In terms of safety concerns, the biggest safety concern that people raised was drivers going at unsafe speeds, and the second was about close passes. The speed observation is backed up by the Essex Police Department speed study that also fed into the traffic calming analysis. 75% of vehicles are exceeding the 25 mile per hour speed limit, and the 85th percentile speed is 33.1 miles per hour. Most of the respondents say they actually rarely use the on-street parking. But we asked if the parking was reduced or removed on one or both sides, how would that affect you? 20% of the respondents did say they would be less likely to visit, and I think that is a real reason for caution. This is a summary of the respondents' support for the project goals. And overall, this is what the survey respondents' thoughts about the their preferred alternative. 46% of the respondents preferred alternative one, which is remove, which is the buffered bike lanes and remove parking on both sides in zones B, C, and D. The second most popular was alternative 0, which was to leave things as they are altogether. And the third is, and 26% supports alternative 2. So together, 73% of the respondents wanted an alternative that made a change here. So in terms of the open comments, it's in your packets as all of a summary of all of the open comments. It's listed there verbatim, and there were a lot of them that seemed to be supportive, but I really wanted to dive into the concerns and see if we could do anything about them. We broke it down into 4 themes. The first theme was that the bike lanes won't get enough use. It's talking about seasonal ridership. They don't see many people on the streets right now using the bike lanes. People question whether or not the demand justifies the trade-offs. The second theme is about how people think the design leaves out people who cannot bike. It's about accessibility, mobility limitations, elderly customers, winter conditions. The third is about narrowing lanes and how some people think that will potentially make traffic worse. They talk about congestion at 5 corners, large vehicles, impact on car throughputs. And this I could, respond to a little bit over here because we have writing on the best practices on lane width. The National Association of City Transportation Officials has published an urban street design guide that talks a lot about the best practices for how to allocate space on streets, and they say try to avoid anything wider than 11 feet. In fact, if you have multiple lanes going in the same direction, only one of them needs to be 11. The other ones you can generally do fine at 10. VTrans set out a directive in 2015 that stated directly that Vermont state highways should have a maximum lane width of 11 feet for all directions of travel. They left out to carve out if there are special circumstances. And I also know this is a class 1 city road, so you don't actually have to follow this. But it's good enough for highways that are meant for high volumes and higher speeds. I would say 11 feet is generally sufficient for cities as well. The last one, the theme 4, was about removing parking and how it may impact businesses and customers. It's about convenience, business viability, proximity. So we will talk about that, parking in a little bit here. But we wanted to, in our outreach, we really focused on reaching out to businesses directly because I think they're the ones that would be most affected by any on-street parking removal. So yeah, we mailed both to the property owners and to the business storefronts directly. This is how the support for the different alternatives broke down. And I'll summarize now just a little bit of additional work we did to study the use of on-street parking in the area. So a little bit of background. It kind of matters because we had a lot of concerns from businesses in Zone A. In 2024, or around that time, 10 on-street parking spaces on the east side, which is the top over here, were removed and turned into a turn lane for the Crescent Connector project. And some makeup spaces were provided further north on the Crescent Connector. So just to make sure any of the data that's for the vehicles that were parked there in the past are captured, in the study, we retain them and assign them to the west side just to be conservative, so that we don't lose that that's potential demand. Even though we know that some of those folks may not have parked there, may have just parked somewhere else entirely or off streets if those spots weren't available in the past. Notably, in this area, overnight parking is prohibited from December to April, and the west side of Zone B, which is in front of Rockies, and the convenience store has a 1 hour time limit. The parking counts that you see in the packets are a combination of these sources. 11 of them are from Google Street View data, which spans from 2008 to 2025. We know they're all from the summer and fall. We don't know exactly when in the day they were taken. 17 of the counts were from a 2019 Stantec study. This is the village center area parking study. They were spread over these 3 days at specific times. One of these counts was done by a UVM engineering intern, and 13 of these counts were done very recently by city staff and actually a member of the Bike Walk Advisory Committee, specifically for this study. So focusing in on the count for the most recent method, these were point-in-time counts that evaluated both on-street and off-street parking utilization. We spread them out over different times of the day and different times of the week, and we made sure we covered the statistical peak demand times for a variety of businesses. And we can tell when these businesses are the busiest because Google tells us. So one of these counts was done at around 10 p.m. on a Friday during the busiest time for Park Place Tavern. And this screenshot was taken by David Atchie right before he went out to count it there, to show that it wasn't it was busy actually. So putting all of that data together, this is what we see. Zone A has fairly high utilization, 51%. Over all the times that were counted, and it kind of drops lower and lower as you go further south. I think for the businesses here, it's not really just the average that matters, it's kind of the peak demand times. So this summary looks at only the top 5 highest demand periods that were counted in the most recent count. And you can see that, like the Zone A is heavily utilized, Zone B, kind of, and then Zone C and D, not really. Yeah, so what did we learn? Overall, the area has plenty of off-street parking, but unfortunately, it's not shared between businesses. So that means that just because a space is free, it doesn't mean it's available to people. You can see it, but you're not allowed to use it sometimes if it's a competing business. We hope that can be improved in the future, but that is the reality right now. And as a result, some customers and some businesses rely on street parking and city municipal lots for overflow. The west side spaces have higher turnover, and that's reflected with the 1 hour time limit, but I think it has to do with the convenience store in Rockies. Parking demand at Park Place Tavern and Green Mountain Clippers, which is owned by the same couple and is basically in the same building, sometimes does exceed available off-street spaces. So the customers may need to use either on-street spaces or the city lots nearby. But proximity to on-street parking was, I think that was a big issue here, and the count data suggests that a lot of times when people are using on-street parking, it's not because off-street parking is not available. It's just because the on-street parking is more convenient. And I think I have to acknowledge that the sensitivity to walking distance varies by, by person and also by business type. But just for comparison, 600 feet would get you from the middle of a Hannaford's parking lot to the rear aisle. And this is the project area with a scale bar over here, just to show what kind of walking distances we'd be talking about with any of these options. So, I think that's the end of my slides over here. I think my hope is that the City Council will be able to choose a preferred alternative today, so that we can move towards final design and implementation, if it's possible, to be hopefully coordinated with the annual restriping efforts.
Tim?
Can I ask just a point of clarification for the conversation? The current spaces in front of the liquor store and Rockies are designated as 1 hour parking. Anywhere in this conversation, is there an opportunity to designate the parking spaces in Zone A in front of 27 Park Street as a limited time parking space?
That
Would
was
that be part of this conversation, or is that a separate conversation, I think is what I'm asking.
There was no proposed changes to Zone A, right?
I mean, I that would require an ordinance change that can be done. If I think if there's a strong desire by the City Council to do that, we can note that it can be kind of a condition of one of these of your final approval if you want, or it can be a separate conversation. There is no such. That was
Okay.
not considered.
Thanks, that was the clarification point. And I will kudos to everyone, because I talked to those businesses up and down, and they said they were flooded with information. So there was a lot of outreach that was done, and I appreciate that. But what I have noticed is those Zone A spots, when they are full of the same cars from the time the business is open till the time the business is closed. Mm-hmm. So I have a very strong desire, speaking for myself, to get some sort of ordinance change for those spots, whether it's a condition of this or not.
You're saying the same cars parking there all day?
Yes,
Employees parking there.
Yeah.
yes.
Brian?
Yeah, that sort of drove a question for me. Do we have the ability to enforce a 1 hour parking at all anyway?
That was my next question.
Police? NW Police?
It would be the police. It would take a lot of proactive work. We clearly don't meter in any way, shape, or form, which sets you up with a whole other meters, or even a much more advanced system of paid parking, which would really kick in a whole other enforcement system in a much more efficient way than the police just monitoring right
and I
now.
think, and not to that, but part of that is, it's a main thoroughfare. They're coming and going all the time. It
Oh.
doesn't- yeah.
Yeah. No,
So, yeah, no, it's not like we have any sort of, we're not out chalking tires.
So I would note though that the current 3 spaces that are signed for 1 hour parking only, the data doesn't suggest that there is an availability problem over there. So it's not they're not being hogged.
And I
by-
understand that.
yeah.
The 1 hour parking in front of the liquor store and the ice cream shop is a convenience parking. And people come in and go. I will say, and I did spend a lot of time over there this week watching traffic. What I did notice was the food service deliveries that come in from U.S. Foods or from Performance Foods or from any other various vendors. They're parking on the street because they cannot get their vehicles physically into the lots. And then I did happen to catch an owner of a bar on Railroad making a liquor purchase and trucking out essentially a truck bed full of alcohol, because that is where it comes from. So it's literally case by case. Just food for thought. But the food service piece of it is going to inevitably cause an issue where there is a delivery parked in the bike lane, if the bike lanes are changed. And I think it's just important to draw attention to that.
Yeah, that was.
So, in observation, a couple of things. First off, to note on the accessibility issue, all the handicap parking is in these associated retailers, and it's in their parking lots, not on the street, which would seem to suggest to me that we, by ordinance or by the design, we believe that the parking lots are the safest place for people who have accessibility, have mobility issues to access these particular retailers. Would you agree?
Yes, I actually would. It's looking into the into where that sentiment seems to be coming from the most. It is Zone A. I think there might be just some history behind what their business's previous experience was, where the most convenient accessible spots actually were right in front on the street, and they're no longer there.
The other thing I wanted to note is, look, every time a municipality talks about removing parking, it's the same complaint, that accessibility, it's all the same. I have to assume there's a study out there, there's some work that's been done to see whether or not retail businesses or any business has really truly seen drop off because of the impact of losing parking in close proximity to their front door. Because this just happens so often that I find it hard to believe somebody hasn't studied this somewhere.
There's a lot of, there are a lot of confounding factors, for studies like this. But
Yeah.
I think I have read some studies, about this topic, and nothing stands out that would strike me as a real caution over here. I think there's, if you're looking into the long run, you're not. Those few spaces in front are current customers, but they're also making it easier to get to any of these businesses by other means, and enabling different modes of travel in the future is also to the benefits of some of these businesses. And I think it also depends on the business type. The businesses that are mostly driven by convenience are going to be the most, and if let's say if you're a gas station, I often won't drive I won't cross over to the other street to fill up my gas tank if it's not convenient. I'll just keep on driving to the next one.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to be somewhere, that is and as a destination, I think that's different.
Like it was karaoke night on Friday night.
Right.
Well, that's why I think, again, in my own observation of watching other municipalities go through the same discussion and such, what appears to end up happening is the same complaint happens. It happens throughout the transition period. Once the transition period is done and people get used to it, much like I feel like people got used to the Crescent Connector existence, then the sentiment starts to change because they start to realize, or they've adapted. And so I'm not sure whether or not there's any facts to back up their claim versus, again, my observation, again, watching multiple municipalities go through this, because I've had to talk about this on air, so I'm a little familiar with it. The other thing that I just want to note, and I hear you on the drop-off for some place like Park Place Tavern. By the nature of the trucks they use, though, they still can get them in there. It's just inconvenient because of the nature of that parking lot. But they could.
I wouldn't want to try. But yeah.
But they
I'll let
could
them
navigate
argue
it, and
semantics.
yeah.
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
it's a reality that I think we'll encounter.
And I think, again, having worked around that industry and seeing some of the difficulty of suppliers dropping off to businesses that are in odd, weird locations, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and
and-
they'll either adapt with a different truck or they'll, delivering at a different time. So,
Again, it was just something to call attention to.
yeah.
And so, if I might, again, we had a very Vermont winter this year. And what I noticed as I traveled the road was that the 8-foot, I think they're designated as parking spaces, were more than half eliminated by snowbanks this year. Like that's, just how much snow we had. So in keeping that in mind, if we're losing essentially 4 foot of road, and you have a 7-foot bike lane and a 4-foot buffer potentially, we've reduced the bike lane to 3 feet, and then we might actually see some riding into that buffer. You have any concerns about that? And there's only, like this year, there were only so many places you could put the snow. And it's not, and again, this is an abnormal winter compared to what we've had recently, but I don't know which way to trend, whether this is a swing back the other way or just an abnormality that you can't plan for. But in your professional opinion, do you have any concern with essentially losing 4 foot of the 7-foot bike lane and then pushing out into that 4-foot buffer? Or do you feel like a 4-foot buffer is substantial enough that it still offers an amount of protection that you're comfortable with?
With a 4-foot buffer, I am pretty sure, and it would be better than all the other painted bike lanes we have in the city, in terms of space to handle some kind of snow encroachment. Is it perfect? Probably not. I mean, I think it's quite different when there are different ways of clearing these streets and lanes, and in the cities we see physical protection of the bike lanes and cycle tracks. You use sidewalk plows instead or a snowblower to create a separated path, and that's I think that would be ideal. That's how you prevent the slow kind of encroachments throughout the winter of the edge of the road. But with alternative 1, it would at least be better than all the other on-street bike lanes we have right now. Alternative 2, a little iffy.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. I will just put a plug in there that there was money in the general fund for a new sidewalk plow, as most of our time last year was spent off in the shop. So, yay us.
I'm going to open it to public comment. Public comment? Anybody in the room?
Hey y'all, David Ashe, Bike Walk Committee. I just want to come out in support of option 1. I was really astounded by the amount of support we got at the committee meeting 2 weeks ago. Just overwhelming, folks of all different shapes and sizes. And then, you mentioned possible concerns of, do we know if people would stop visiting businesses if we were to do this? We know people aren't cycling on these roads because they are unsafe. There are people. I have a young child. We go to Boxcar. I'm as confident of a cyclist as they come, and I'm willing to get my elbows out. But it is that Park Street is fairly harrowing to be a lot of people's first entry point into our city. Especially with those 14-foot lanes, cars are really, really, really taking advantage of this. Just wanted to voice my support.
Thanks, David. Anybody else? John?
Yep, much like David, just want to put out there that the overwhelming support that we had turn up in person for the public event was a surprise to me, because I did go through all 50-something comments in one field and 70 in another, and the 6 from our area businesses, and I was prepared to hear some of those negative comments in person. But I feel like the data and what we've heard from people really supports this project for all reasons. It will reduce speeds. It will not increase traffic. It will provide a safe corridor that is going to connect our neighbors in Williston to wherever their destinations might be, either here or beyond, which does not currently exist. And option 1 is really the only one that's going to give us a safe corridor for those folks looking to get through there. Yeah, just speaking to support that.
Thanks, John. Anybody online? Raj?
Hey, I'll just throw my support in there for all the reasons that have been said for option 1. I tried to listen as much as I could, had some work stuff I was doing during this debate. Just a couple quick points. There's been a lot of feedback on this, most of it positive. I think as Bike Walks pointed out, there's a lot of support for option 1 or option 2. Relating to the comment about the spots being full all day, I think generally with parking and what we've got coming in all of our corridors and what we're expecting over the next 10 years, I think we just have to start getting our heads around the fact that proximate business parking on street on our main thoroughfares is probably just not something that's going to stick around or be possible to stick around, and take the opportunities to make these changes to transition to alternate transportation and promote it. That in conjunction with narrowing the lanes and doing the traffic calming, I think is what people are really looking for right now. So please listen to the input we've had. And yeah, thanks for your time.
Online. Daniel?
Yeah, Daniel Ligori, also on the Bike Walk Advisory Committee, also wanting to echo all the things that have been said up to this point. And yeah, I also want to really emphasize how much better Alternative 1 is over Alternative 2, where, you know, you retain the parking on one side of the street. Because in a lot of ways, you kind of get these problems that are somewhat exacerbated when you have parking on only one side, right? You think about the accessibility concerns. If you're parking on one side and then you have to get to a business on the other side, you're prompting a lot of kind of road crossings across the street. And then when talking about these buffers, I mean, if you look at kind of the overhead shots of the different alternatives, you see that at times, you know, the buffers shrink and expand, you know, depending on the different parts of the road. So having that bigger buffer, you know, in the best sections where you do have kind of the maximum amount of space for the cyclists, that makes a really, really big difference, because, you know, at times you have to surrender that space. But then if, you know, you kind of set the precedent earlier on in the corridor that cyclists can take that space, it means that the drivers will give them the space because they've seen kind of the amount of space that they should be giving. Which again, 4-foot buffer is the legal passing distance that a car should take when passing a cyclist within the state of Vermont. So you're also just encouraging the correct behavior on the count of drivers. So yeah, wanted to echo what everyone said and then really put in that extra push for Alternative 1.
Thanks, Daniel. Is there any other public comment online? And my computer has now decided to freeze for the second time. So could you be my eyes for me, please?
Yes, I don't see any other hands online.
Okay. All right, I'm going to bring it back to us. Is there any other discussion before I entertain a motion? Does anybody want to pick one alternative and run with it? Go ahead, Mr. Certa.
Based on my concern for the safety, primarily over anything else, I'm going to move that the City Council select Alternative 1 for the Park Street Complete Street Improvement Project and direct staff to proceed with final design and implementation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sounded unanimous to me. So, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. You put a lot of work into this. Appreciate it.
All right, entertain a motion for consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Councilmember comments and city manager report.
We were due at McGillicuddy's half hour ago.
Yep. Duly noted. Anybody else?
Can't have the party without Elaine and Marcus.
Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good night, guys.